The call came on a Tuesday. I was deep into debugging a particularly challenging bit of code when my phone buzzed against my desk. I ignored it the first time, but when it buzzed again 30 seconds later, I reluctantly tore my eyes away from it. My monitor. The name on the screen made my stomach clench. Sophia. My cousin never called unless something was wrong. "Hello?" I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Emma!" "Thank God you answered." Sophia's voice came through breathless and high-pitched. "Your mom's been trying to reach you all day." Of course she had. And of course, she'd enlisted Sophia to be her messenger when I didn't pick up. Classic Karen Miller strategy. "I've been working," I said, which wasn't a lie. At 26, I was one of the youngest senior developers at Axiom Technologies, and my reputation for solving impossible problems came with the expectation that I'd be available whenever a crisis hit. "What's up?" "It's about Christmas," Sophia said, and I could hear the caution in her voice. "Your parents want you to come home this year." Home. The word sat heavy and awkward in my mind, like trying to wear shoes that no longer fit. I hadn't been home for Christmas in 3 years, not since the disaster of 2022, when my brother Lucas had announced his engagement and my parents had spent the entire holiday fawning over him and his fiancée while I sat in the corner, as invisible as I'd always been. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said, swiveling in my chair to face the window. Seattle's skyline sprawled before me, the Space Needle rising above the mist like a sentinel. This was my home now. "Please, Emma," Sophia pleaded. "Your dad said it's important. The whole family's going to be there." I closed my eyes, remembering last Christmas spent with my friends instead of family. We'd rented a cabin in the mountains, cooked a massive turkey dinner, exchanged thoughtful gifts, and laughed until our sides hurt. It had been perfect. It had been healing. "I'll think about it," I said finally, knowing I'd already made up my mind. "I need to go, Soph. Deadline." After hanging up, I sat staring at my reflection in the darkened monitor. I had changed so much since leaving my parents' house 6 years ago. My once mousy brown hair was now cut into a sleek bob with caramel highlights, and the glasses I'd worn throughout my awkward teenage years had been replaced with contacts that showed off my hazel eyes. I dressed differently too, in clothes that actually fit and flattered my petite frame, rather than the hand-me-downs and bargain bin finds my mother had always insisted were good enough for me. Good enough. That phrase had been the soundtrack of my childhood. Lucas needed new soccer cleats, but my tennis shoes with the holes were good enough. Lucas deserved the private math tutor when he struggled with algebra, but I was good enough at figuring things out on my own when I asked. For coding camp, Lucas's accomplishments were celebrated with parties and social media announcements, while mine were acknowledged with a distracted, "That's nice, honey," if they were acknowledged at all. I turned back to my screen, but the code that had consumed me just minutes before now seemed distant and unimportant. My thoughts had been hijacked, dragged back to a place I'd spent years trying to escape. With a sigh, I opened my email and requested time off for Christmas. Maybe it was time to face my past instead of running from it. Maybe, just maybe, things would be different this time. But even as I typed the request, a voice in the back of my mind whispered that nothing had changed except me. 2 weeks later, I found myself driving a rental car down the familiar streets of my hometown. The trip from Seattle had been uneventful. A quick flight followed by the tedious process of collecting luggage and signing rental papers. I could have requested an airport pickup, but the thought of making small talk with either of my parents for an hour straight was enough to justify the expense of the car. As I drove, I realized the town seemed smaller than I remembered. The imposing high school where I'd spent 4 years trying to be invisible was just an ordinary brick building. The park where Lucas had played baseball while I read books on the bleachers was merely a modest green space with aging equipment. My parents' house, however, looked exactly the same. A 2-story colonial with navy blue shutters and a wraparound porch decorated for Christmas with the same light-up reindeer and inflatable Santa they'd had since I was 10. The sight of it sent a rush of complicated emotions through me, nostalgia mixed with anxiety, familiarity laced with dread. I parked behind my father's Lexus and sat for a moment, gathering courage. I'd been so certain I could handle this reunion with poise and emotional distance. Now, sitting in the driveway of my childhood home, I wasn't so sure. "You're not that person anymore," I reminded myself aloud. "You've built your own life. You're successful. You're happy." And it was true. After graduating with honors in computer science, I'd landed an entry-level position at Axiom, quickly proving myself and rising through the ranks. My salary had recently hit 6 figures, and I'd just closed on a cozy condo overlooking Elliott Bay. I had good friends, interesting hobbies, and enough savings to feel secure. I was nothing like the insecure, desperate-to-please girl who'd left this house with 3 suitcases and a heart full of determination. With that thought firmly in mind, I stepped out of the car, grabbed my luggage, and walked up the familiar path to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open to reveal my mother, Karen, her blonde hair perfectly styled, and her face arranged in what I recognized as her company smile. "Emma, you made it," she exclaimed, enveloping me in a cloud of expensive perfume, as she hugged me briefly. Come in. Everyone's dying to see you." I seriously doubted that, but I smiled politely and stepped inside. The house was warm and filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon. Christmas music played softly in the background. It looked like a holiday catalog spread, pristine and perfect, just like my mother had always insisted our home appear to outsiders. "You? Look." My mother paused, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. Different. I knew what she meant. In addition to my new hairstyle and contacts, I was wearing tailored black pants, a cashmere sweater in deep burgundy, and a simple gold necklace that had cost more than I'd ever spent on a single piece of jewelry before. It was a far cry from the oversized hoodies and bargain jeans she was used to seeing me in. "Thanks," I replied, choosing to take it as a compliment whether she'd meant it as one or not. "Where should I put my bags?" "Oh, your old room, of course. Lucas and Mia are in the guest room, and your cousins are taking the basement." She waved, vaguely toward the stairs. "Dinner's at 6. Don't be late. You know how your father gets when the schedule is disrupted." And just like that, I was dismissed. I climbed the stairs to my old bedroom, feeling like I'd stepped back in time. The room was largely unchanged. Pale blue walls, white furniture, and a twin bed with a floral comforter. The only indication that 6 years had passed was the absence of my personal belongings, the books, the little robot figurines I'd collected, the bulletin board that had once been covered with academic achievements and computer science competition ribbons. I placed my suitcase on the bed and took a deep breath. It was going to be a long 5 days. Dinner that night was an exercise in restraint. My father, Richard, dominated the conversation as always, talking about his latest achievements at the architectural firm where he was now a senior partner. Lucas, golden boy extraordinaire, shared updates about his job in finance and the house he and Mia were renovating in the suburbs. My mother added perfectly timed questions and supportive comments while my sister-in-law Mia gazed adoringly at my brother as if his story about kitchen backsplash tiles was the most fascinating thing she'd ever heard. I sat quietly, pushing food around my plate and responding when directly addressed, which wasn't often. It wasn't until dessert was served that my father finally turned his attention to me. "So, Emma," he said, his tone suggesting he was fulfilling an obligation, rather than expressing genuine interest. "How's the computer stuff going?" 6 years of professional accomplishments reduced to computer stuff. I shouldn't have been surprised. "It's going well," I said lightly. "I was promoted to senior developer last month, actually." "Oh? That's nice." My father nodded before immediately turning to Lucas. "Son, tell Emma about the Johnson account you landed. Now that's an impressive achievement. And just like that, the spotlight swung away from me as it always had. I caught Sophia's sympathetic glance from across the table, but I just shrugged. I hadn't expected anything different. Later, as everyone gathered in the living room for after-dinner drinks, I found myself cornered by my Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, who had always taken a little too much pleasure in highlighting my shortcomings. "Emma, sweetheart," she said, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes sharp. "Karen tells me you're still working with computers. Haven't met anyone special yet?" "I'm focusing on my career right now," I replied, the rehearsed answer sliding easily off my tongue. "Oh, of course, dear. Not everyone is as lucky as Lucas, finding love so young." She glanced over at my brother and Mia, who were cuddled together on the sofa. "But don't wait too long. Women in our family tend to lose their looks early." She patted my arm with false sympathy before drifting away to refill her wine glass. I slipped out to the porch soon after, needing fresh air and escape. The night was clear and cold, stars speckling the sky above. I leaned against the railing, breathing deeply, wondering yet again why I'd agreed to come. Hiding already? Sophia's voice came from behind me as she stepped through the door. 2 mugs of something steaming in her hands. She passed one to me, and the rich scent of hot chocolate with a hint of peppermint schnapps wafted up. "Just needed some air," I said, accepting the mug gratefully. "Bullshit," she replied with a knowing smile. "You're hiding from the Lucas and Mia show, and I don't blame you. They're enough to give anyone diabetes." I laughed despite myself. Sophia had always been able to cut through the pretense of our family dynamics. 2 years older than me, she'd been my childhood protector, and the only one who seemed to notice how differently Lucas and I were treated. "It's just so exhausting," I admitted quietly. "Nothing's changed. I still don't exist unless they need something or want to compare me unfavorably to Lucas." "I know." Sophia leaned against the railing beside me. "For what it's worth, I think it's bullshit. You've done amazing things, Em. I follow your company online. That healthcare system you guys designed last year, the one that helps match patients with clinical trials, that's changing lives." Her words warmed me more than the spiked hot chocolate. "Thanks, Soph." "Have you told them about your condo yet?" she asked. I shook my head. "Hasn't come up. And honestly, I don't think they'd care much." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You don't think they'd care that their 26-year-old daughter bought her own place in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the country? While genius Lucas is still getting help with his down payment?" I nearly spat out my drink. "What? Dad's helping them buy the house?" "Oh, you didn't know?" Sophia looked chagrined. "Mom mentioned it last week. Uncle Richard is helping with the financing, since Lucas's bonus won't come through until after they close." Typical. My father had refused to help with my college tuition, insisting I needed to learn financial independence while simultaneously funding Lucas's business school completely. And now he was helping with a house while I'd scrapped and saved for my condo's down payment entirely on my own. "I shouldn't be surprised," I said finally, staring out at the quiet street. "It's always been like this." Sophia put an arm around my shoulders. "Not everyone is blind to it, Em. Some of us see you, really see you." I leaned my head against her shoulder, grateful for her presence. "That means more than you know." We stayed like that for a while, sipping our drinks in companionable silence. Eventually, the cold drove us back inside, where the family had moved on to playing charades. I begged exhaustion from the travel and escaped to my childhood bedroom, where I spent the rest of the evening catching up on work emails and texting with my real family, the friends who had been there for me when no one else was. The next few days passed in a blur of forced family activities and thinly veiled critiques of my life choices. My mother questioned why I dressed so severely and suggested I might attract more men if I wore pastels. My father commented that technology jobs were unreliable and wouldn't I be better off in something more stable, like the administrative position his friend's company had available. Even Lucas got in on the action, patronizingly explaining cryptocurrency to me as if I hadn't helped develop a blockchain-based security system for Axiom's banking clients last year. I weathered it all with what I hoped appeared to be indifference. Though inside, I was counting the hours until I could return to Seattle. The only bright spots were my conversations with Sophia and my nightly video calls with my friends who offered virtual support and reminded me that this wasn't my real life anymore. Christmas Eve arrived with a flurry of last-minute preparations. My mother enlisted me to help with the cooking, which mostly meant giving me the tedious tasks no one else wanted: peeling potatoes, chopping mountains of vegetables, and hand-washing the special china that couldn't go in the dishwasher. Meanwhile, Lucas and my father watched football in the den, and Mia fluttered around my mother like an eager apprentice, learning all the family recipes that would apparently help her be a proper Miller wife. By evening, the house was filled with extended family. Uncle James and Aunt Patricia, with their 3 perfect children, my grandmother Rose, who still couldn't remember that I wasn't in high school anymore, and various cousins, spouses, and family friends. The dining room table had been extended to its full capacity, laden with enough food to feed twice our number, and the living room was piled with gaily wrapped presents that would be opened the following morning. Dinner was a production as always, with my mother playing the role of gracious hostess to perfection. I sat between my cousin's 7-year-old son, who spent the meal kicking me under the table, and my great-uncle Walter, who was hard of hearing and kept asking me to repeat myself, at volumes that drew attention from the entire table. "So, Emma," my grandmother said during a lull in conversation, her voice carrying clearly across the table, "still playing with those computer games? When are you going to get a real job like your brother?" Before I could respond, Lucas jumped in. "Gran, Emma works in tech. It is a real job." He flashed me what he probably thought was a supportive smile, but the condescension in his tone was unmistakable. "Thank you, Lucas," I said tightly, "but I can answer for myself." "Grandmother, I'm a senior software developer at one of the top tech companies in the country. We create systems that help businesses and organizations operate efficiently and securely." "Well, I don't understand any of that," my grandmother huffed. "In my day, young women became nurses or teachers if they wanted careers, respectable jobs." "Times have changed, Mother," my father interjected, surprising me by coming to my defense, however weakly. "Not always for the better," she muttered, but thankfully turned her attention to criticizing the tenderness of the roast instead. After dinner, the family gathered in the living room for the Miller Christmas Eve tradition, opening one gift each before bed. My mother distributed the presents with her usual flourish, calling out names and watching eagerly as each person unwrapped their carefully selected item. Lucas received an expensive watch from our parents. Mia got a delicate gold bracelet that had belonged to my grandmother. Sophia unwrapped a cashmere scarf in her favorite shade of blue. One by one, everyone opened a gift, everyone except me. I sat quietly, waiting for my name to be called, though a sinking feeling in my stomach told me what was coming. When the last person had opened their present and exclaimed over its perfection, my mother looked around with a satisfied smile that suddenly froze when her gaze landed on me. "Oh my God," she gasped, her hand flying to her chest in what looked like practiced dismay. "We forgot about you." All eyes turned to me, and I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment and anger. Someone chuckled nervously, then another, until a ripple of awkward laughter spread through the room. "It's fine," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "No big deal." "I could have sworn we had something for you," my father said, frowning, as if genuinely perplexed rather than covering for yet another oversight. "Check your list twice, Santa," Lucas joked, and more laughter followed. I saw the expectation in their eyes. They were waiting for the old Emma, the one who would smile through her hurt, who would pretend it was okay to be forgotten, who would shrink into herself rather than cause a scene. They thought I was going to cry, to break down, to reveal the insecure girl I'd once been. Instead, I smiled. A real smile, not the forced one I'd been wearing for days. "It's okay," I said, my voice stronger now. "Look what I gave myself this year." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, opening the Photos app to the picture I'd been waiting for the right moment to share. I passed the phone to Sophia first, who was sitting beside me. Her eyes widened as she looked at the screen. "Emma, is this—" "My new condo," I confirmed, unable to keep the pride from my voice. 15 floors up, overlooking Elliott Bay. I closed on it last month. The phone began making its way around the room, expressions of shock appearing on each face as they saw the stunning view from my floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern open kitchen with its quartz countertops, the spacious living room with the fireplace I'd always dreamed of. "You bought a condo?" my mother asked weakly. "In Seattle?" "Downtown Seattle," I clarified. "The market's competitive, but my last bonus made the down payment possible." I looked directly at my father as I added, "I handled all the financing myself. No help needed." My father's face had gone pale, while Lucas stared at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Was it respect? Jealousy? Whatever it was new. "This must have been very expensive," my Aunt Patricia said, her tone suggesting I must be exaggerating or had made a poor financial decision. "It was," I agreed cheerfully. "But when you're the youngest senior developer in your company's history, you can afford nice things." The silence that followed was deafening. I'd never spoken about my success so openly before, had never challenged the family narrative that Lucas was the successful one while I was just playing with computers. My mother was the first to recover. "Well, that's wonderful, Emma. We're very proud of you." Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and her tone suggested she was anything but proud. Threatened, maybe? Confused? Definitely. "Thanks, Mom," I replied, taking my phone back as it completed its journey around the room. It's the best gift I could have given myself. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can we talk?" I stepped back to let him in, curious about what he could possibly want. He perched on the edge of my bed while I leaned against the dresser, arms crossed. "So, about tonight," he began, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "That was pretty badass what you did." "Was it?" I asked coolly. "I just shared some good news." "Come on, Em, you know exactly what you were doing." A hint of his usual cockiness crept back into his voice. "Making Mom and Dad look bad for forgetting your gift by showing off how successful you are without their help." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that how you see it?" "Interesting. I saw it as refusing to be humiliated by a family that's consistently treated me as an afterthought." Lucas had the grace to look slightly ashamed, but it didn't last long. "Look, I know things haven't always been equal between us. That's the understatement of the century," I cut in. "But we're adults now," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "And actually, that's why I wanted to talk to you. I've been working on a business idea, a startup in the fintech space. With your programming skills and my finance background, we could be a perfect team." I stared at him, momentarily speechless. After years of dismissing my career as unimportant, after watching our parents forget me at Christmas yet again, he had the audacity to ask for my professional help? "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to contribute my computer skills to your business venture?" "Exactly." His face lit up with enthusiasm, completely missing my sarcasm. "We could keep it in the family. I've already got Dad, interested in investing, but we need a tech person, and who better than my little sister?" It all became clear then. This was why my parents had suddenly insisted I come home for Christmas after years of barely acknowledging my absence. Not because they missed me or wanted to repair our relationship, but because Lucas needed something from me. "No," I said simply. Lucas blinked, clearly not expecting rejection. What do you mean, no? You haven't even heard the details yet. I don't need to, I replied, feeling strangely calm. I already have a career I love, with colleagues who respect me and value my contributions. I don't need to be the tech person in your shadow. That's not fair, he protested. This could be huge, Em. We could make millions. I'm already making more than enough, I said. And more importantly, I've made it on my own terms, without riding anyone's coattails or trading on the family name. Lucas's expression hardened. So that's it? After everything our family has done for you? I laughed, the sound sharp and disbelieving. What exactly has our family done for me, Lucas? Forgotten me at Christmas? Dismissed my career? Made me feel like a perpetual disappointment? Please, enlighten me. We haven't, he sputtered. But I could see in his eyes that he knew I was right. I think you should go, I said quietly. I'll see you in the morning. After he left, I sat on my bed for a long time, thinking. For years, I'd blamed myself for the distance between me and my family. I'd tried to be what they wanted, smarter, prettier, more accomplished, thinking that if I just achieved enough, they would finally see me. Tonight had proven that nothing would ever be enough, because the problem had never been me. It had been them all along. I pulled out my phone and made a decision. Rather than staying through the 26th as planned, I booked a flight home, my real home, for tomorrow afternoon. I would still participate in Christmas morning, exchange the gifts I'd brought, and make polite conversation. But after that, I was done trying to win the approval of people who had never wanted to give it. As expected, Christmas morning was tense. My mother put on a good show of delight when she opened the expensive scarf I'd bought her, but there was a new wariness in her eyes whenever she looked at me. My father examined the leather portfolio I'd had monogrammed for him with less enthusiasm than he showed for the tie Lucas and Mia gave him. Lucas himself was coldly polite, while the extended family watched our interactions with the avid interest of spectators at a tennis match. My own pile of gifts was predictably impersonal. A generic gift card from my parents, hastily purchased after last night, I suspected. A live, laugh, love wall hanging from my aunt and uncle that I'd never hang in a million years, and a computer mouse from Lucas and Mia that was several models behind the professional equipment I already used. Only Sophia's gift showed any real thought. A beautiful hand-bound journal with my name embossed on the cover and a note that read simply, "For the story only you can tell." As the wrapping paper was being cleared away and my mother began organizing people for Christmas dinner preparations, I quietly announced that I would be leaving early due to an unexpected work situation. The lie came easily, and no one questioned it too closely, perhaps relieved that the source of last night's discomfort would be gone sooner than expected. Sophia found me in my room as I was packing. "You're not really leaving because of work, are you?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. "No," I admitted. "I'm leaving because I finally realized I don't belong here, and that's okay." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Last night was a long time coming. It was, I agreed, carefully folding my sweater. Lucas came to see me afterward. Turns out the whole reason they wanted me home this year was so he could pitch me on joining his startup. Sophia rolled her eyes. "Of course. God forbid they want to see you just because they miss you." "I think that's what finally did it for me," I said, zipping my suitcase closed. "I kept hoping someday they'd see me, really see me, and be proud of who I am. But they only see what they can get from me, what I can do for Lucas." "What did you tell him?" "I told him no," I said, smiling slightly at the memory of his shocked face. It felt good, Soph. Really good. She crossed the room and hugged me fiercely. "I'm proud of you, and I'm going to miss you like crazy, but I get it. You have to take care of yourself." I hugged her back, tears pricking my eyes for the first time since I'd arrived. "You'll visit? Seattle's beautiful in the summer." "Try and stop me," she promised. "I want to see this fancy condo for myself." An hour later, I was in my rental car heading to the airport, Christmas dinner and family drama receding in my rearview mirror. As I drove, a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying seemed to lift from my shoulders. The family I was born into might never appreciate me, but I had built a life filled with people who did. Friends who celebrated my victories, colleagues who respected my abilities, and most importantly, a sense of self-worth that no longer depended on others. Validation. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Left the family chat yet?" I smiled. The infamous Miller family group chat had been a source of passive-aggressive comments and Lucas worship for years. I pulled over at a rest stop, opened the chat, and typed a brief message. "Merry Christmas, everyone. I've realized that sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you. I'm grateful for the life I've built on my own terms, and I wish you all well. For those who would like to be part of my life moving forward, my door is open, but only if you can respect me and my achievements as they are, not as you wish them to be." Then I tapped Leave Group and felt a rush of liberation so powerful it made me laugh out loud in the empty car. 3 days later, back in my beautiful condo with its breathtaking view of Elliott Bay, I hosted an impromptu second Christmas for my chosen family. My closest friends gathered around my dining table, sharing a meal we'd cooked together, exchanging thoughtful gifts that proved how well they knew me, and filling my home with genuine laughter and affection. As I looked around at these people who loved me for exactly who I was, I realized that the girl who had left her parents' house 6 years ago with 3 suitcases and a heart full of determination had given herself the greatest gift of all, the courage to create her own definition of family, success, and happiness, and no one could ever take that away from me.